call in.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay, you're all set.
Thank you.
All right. It's been a while. We'll call the finance meeting to order. And I think we have both Ms. Fay and Mr. Davidoff here from the committee. And with that, I'll make a motion for the approval of the June 13 minutes.
Second.
All right. All right. With that, no objection. Approved. Move on to item B, Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Town Councilors, Rick Ledwith, Town Manager. First on our agenda is an appropriation for the replacement of the 24 combined tennis courts at Hall and Conard High School. You'll recall that we had included $3 million in this year's capital improvement plan to replace the 25-year-old tennis courts. You may also recall that thanks to the hard work of our West Hartford delegation, we received $3 million in funding from the State Bond Commission to cover the cost of this project. We have since issued an RFP for the court replacement, and the one bid that we received came in about 17% higher than the $3 million original estimate. And that's primarily due to the higher cost of materials brought on by the inflationary environment that we are presently experiencing. The adoption of this ordinance will provide the town with sufficient funds to hire our contractor and begin work on this project. The vendor that we would use is Classic Turf Company out of Woodbury, Connecticut, and they had recently completed the Buena Vista reconstruction of the tennis courts and pickleball courts up at BV. So I will hit pause there for you, Mr. Chairman, and turn it over to the committee for any questions that you may have.
I think this has been a well-covered subject matter, and I thank the town staff's work on this, and especially the delegation and to the administration for getting this done. It's just the time that we live in right now where things are just very expensive, and it seems that things are starting to come back to earth a little bit. Hopefully that we'll see that a little bit more, but I think this is a really important project for us to move forward with, and I'm looking forward to seeing this on the council's agenda. I don't know if there are any questions from the committee members.
Yeah, Mr. Sweeney, may I please? This is Mary.
Go ahead.
Yes, please. So yeah, of course, this is something that needs to be done, and excuse me, will be done. But what's the price differential be? What we originally thought, and now what the estimates are? I don't recall the original number. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, Rick Ledwith, Town Manager. So, Councilor Fay, the original cost we had allocated was $3 million, and the bid that we received came in at $3,495,000, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Mr. Privatera?
P. Privatera, Finance Director. Actually, the increase in cost is $400,000. This authorization allows for an additional $100,000, as the town manager said, given the environment that we're in, I didn't want to have a potential change order that would hold up the project. So we plan on spending $400,000, but if something came up during the project or we had to spend a little more, we have authorization for an additional $95,000. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I certainly hope this inflation environment starts to, well, either slow down or stop. But yeah, I guess that's what it is. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Fay. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, we will move on to item C, a resolution appropriating the unexpected funds of the Assistance to Firefighters Grant. Mr. Ledwith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rick Ledwith, Town Manager. Back in September of 2021, the fire department was awarded a $350,000 grant to fund 3 certification classes for 20 fire department personnel. The classes were a Fire Instructor 1 certification class, a Fire Officer 1 certification class, and an Incident Safety Officer certification class. Due to COVID, these funds were not fully expended, and we would like to carry forward the $268,000 balance into the current fiscal year to continue these certification classes. Subject to the council's approval, we would have until August of 23 to expend these funds. And I will stop there and turn it back to you, Mr. Chairman, for any questions that the committee may have.
I do not. Other members of the committee? Hearing and seeing none. Thank you for that explanation, Mr. Ledwith.
Sure.
Move on to item D, resolution appropriating a historic documents preservation grant.
Rick Ledwith, Town Manager. I will turn this over to our Town Clerk, Essie LeBreau, and Essie can provide the committee with an overview of this grant.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me? I'm on my phone, on my telephone, because my system isn't working anyway. So this is a grant that we apply for every year with the state library, and it provides funds, maximum of $7,500 for our size town, to do improvements in our office and keep up to date with our microfilming and our documents. So we received the $7,500, and throughout this fiscal year, we will expend that by using microfilm, binding, and imaging and securing our vital records. Any questions?
I do not. I'm glad that we're making this move. This is great and very important.
Every dollar helps.
Very important for us to do these sort of things going forward. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, I will move on to item E, a resolution appropriating additional funds to the office of the town clerk to purchase equipment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I will turn Rick Ledwith, Town Manager. I'll turn things back over to our Town Clerk to give an overview on this particular purchase request.
Thank you, Essie LeBreau, Town Clerk. And this is a resolution appropriating money that will be spent on a printing device for the print shop, which we will share with the Board of Education. We found during this last election cycle that our office is one of the high-end users for the print shop services, and they have some outdated printing equipment, and they're not able to meet our needs without this new piece of equipment. So we are sharing this with the Board of Education, and it's much more cost-effective for us to use our own print shop than to put these out to outside services. So the money would be coming from that MERS land records subsidiary, which is very helpful to assist us with these kinds of needs that come up unexpectedly.
Thank you, Madam Bro. This is a great. I think this is a really good investment for the town, as we've seen over this housing boom that we've had in town. There's been a significant demand on documents and documents quickly as real estate is moving and people are trying to get things done quickly. And I think this is a great use. And obviously, as Mr. Bro said, this will eventually save the town some money due to the volume that we're seeing. And it's important for us to, the vital documents that are being printed with the town clerk, it's important to have them done right and quickly. So thank you for this. I think this is a great use of funds here.
Thank you.
Any questions? All right, moving to item F, a resolution closing the completed capital projects in the capital projects fund.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rick Ledwith, Town Manager. I'll refer to our Director of Finance, Pete Privatera, to provide an overview of this particular resolution. Mr. Privatera.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwith, Pete Privatera, Finance Director. This is just some housekeeping that we need to do. We have to close these projects out completely before we can start amortizing our capital assets. So basically, this was money that was left over in these projects. The projects are completed, and once we close them out, that money will go into a reserve account in the CNRE fund, and basically that allows us to start amortizing our capital assets.
Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, we will move on to the main part of today's meeting, item G, and an update on our ARPA funding status. Mr. Ledwith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rick Ledwith, Town Manager. We did want to provide an update on our, as Mr. Chairman said, our ARPA funding status. You will recall at our last Finance and Administration meeting, we did allocate $2 million for the town's small business and nonprofit grant program. We have since rolled that program out in early July, and small businesses and nonprofits were able to apply for up to $10,000 in grants through the grant deadline of August 10th. To date, we've received approximately 140 applications for grants. And our ARPA Grant Committee will be meeting next week to begin our review of these applications. And assuming all 140 applications are awarded the $10,000 maximum, we will still have about roughly $600,000 in available funds for small businesses and nonprofits. So what we will do at that point, once we have a determination of exactly who will be awarded the funds and how much money we have left over exactly, we will be reopening our program shortly on a rolling basis, and then accepting applications until we expend all $2 million of those grants. So I'll stop there and see if there are any questions regarding where we are presently. We will be back before the council before making those final awards. I estimate that could happen at that September 13th council meeting, where we would we'd have the original award resolution before the council, and then we'd probably be back at a future council meeting to expend the remaining $600,000+ in awards that we would be granting on a rolling basis. For you, Mr. Chairman, I'll just pause there just for a moment for questions before moving on.
Thank you for that, Mr. Ledwith. So just can you clarify what is the remaining unallocated funding here? Just want to make sure that.
Yeah, so small business and nonprofits were eligible for up to $10,000 in grants. We had 140 applications, so we're estimating, assuming everybody is awarded an award of those 140, that'd be $1.4 million that we've expended, leaving about $600,000. Those are just estimates. We have to actually do the review process to see exactly how many of those 140 would be awarded those grants. But assuming it was all 140, we'd be left with about $600,000 left over that we would expend on a rolling basis. So we would re-communicate a program back out to our business community and our nonprofit community, and give people more time to apply and expend the funds on a rolling basis moving forward.
Question for you, Mr. Lewitt.
Sure.
What is the industry that we've seen the most participation from?
That I don't have an answer for that, Mr. Chairman. I would, until we sit back down with the committee, we've had a couple of vacations here. So Kristen Gorski, who's our Economic Development Coordinator, and Patty Lewis on Peter's team were both reviewing the applications as they were coming in on an ongoing basis, but I could follow up with you with that information.
Okay.
Peter, you wouldn't happen to know based on your conversations with Patty, would you?
No, I mean, you're right about vacations. Patty was on vacation last week and just got back, and Kristen's on vacation this week. So we hope to get together the following week when we have a 3-day schedule for review process. But I certainly can have Patty put something together on the breakout between the small businesses and the nonprofits.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then just a quick question, please. This is Mary through you, Mr. Sweeney. Excuse me. Is the criteria of how you would go about applying for this grant? Is it on a website, or where should people go to learn more?
I can handle that. Ms. Fay, this we covered this at I believe our last council meeting. Everything should be available on the town's economic development site. It's also available, I believe, on the main page, and all of the various chambers and connected associations have put out the word. There is emails that went out through the town. It was done through social. It's pretty readily available everywhere you go. I think if you can just Google it, it'll come up as well. But I think it was pretty well covered in the town. I thought that the town did a good job. I'm shocked that we didn't have more people participate in it. But I think one of the concerns that we had initially with the delay in doing this was it being done during kind of the height of summer, and so hopefully we'll see more people participate with this as we are seeing here today come back from vacation.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You're exactly right, and I do expect we will fully expend the $2 million once we recommunicate it. And people being away from summer vacation probably didn't feel like they had time to do it. This will provide them with that extra time, and I think in the early part of fall we'll close that delta between the 1.4 million and 2 million and expend all of the funds. There being no more questions, I can move on.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So now, after the expenditure of the $2 million in the small business and nonprofit grants, our current ARPA balance is $11.2 million for the town allocation and $12.2 million for the county allocation. We provided a spreadsheet on Civic Clerk. I just tried to share it with the screen. I wasn't successful in doing that. but hopefully everybody had a chance to take a look at that spreadsheet. And I would draw your attention down to the bottom portion of this spreadsheet where we have a number of pending original projects that had been discussed over the past several months. The three that I want to highlight for the committee, at least initially, are the wayfinding signage, the center reconstruction, and the sustainability projects. These projects had been discussed with the council as potentially having being appropriate projects to utilize the ARPA funds. Right now, we would not need to act on the center reconstruction project or the sustainability project. We come back before Finance and Administration and eventually the council on those two. But I do want to talk a little bit about the wayfinding signage project, which we are in a position to move forward if the committee felt it were appropriate. And if they did, we would bring it to the council in September. But by way of summary, this project will help us to promote our identity, making it easier for visitors to find their way throughout town and really enhance their experience while in town. It'll focus on parking and pedestrian travel, not just in the center and Blueback Square, but throughout all of our business districts. It'll also help us to establish a strong identity at the gateways into town. So Park Road and New Britain Avenue and all the areas that you enter into town would benefit from the wayfinding signage. This signage strategy brings tremendous economic benefits to our local businesses through increased sales, potentially new jobs for our businesses, but will also transfer out to our parks and our historic landmarks as well, providing a consistent strategy literally across our entire community. We have issued an RFP to hire a consultant to assist us with this project, and the cost of that would be approximately $87,000 to hire the consultant. And then the remaining balance would be used for design, construction, and then eventually placement of the signage throughout the community. But assuming that this was approved by Finance and Administration, we bring it forward to the council. At that point, we would enter into a contract in September with the consultant, and we'd form a committee to begin the work of our wayfinding signage project. And we would be working through community planning and economic development as we move through that process into the fall, providing updates to the council throughout that time period. So I'll stop there and see if there are any questions on the wayfinding signage project. Mr. Chairman.
I have a comment. I think you touched on what I wanted to emphasize here. I think the point of these funds were to help our community recover. I think what these will do is help steer people to our local businesses and potentially to areas of the town that aren't necessarily as well advertised as Blueback and West Hartford Center. I think we have a whole corridor developing along Newton Park that I think we really want to continue to invest in, as we've seen over the last couple of council meetings, the town doing so with all sorts of different accommodations being made. But this is really important to help develop those particular corridors, as we want to make sure that everyone gets the love in this. But most importantly, we really want to see our businesses bounce back. That's what we're doing here with the signage, with the grant assistance program for small businesses. We want to try to gear as many people to our local businesses, and I think this is a great way for us to do that. You see this in a lot of high-performing communities across the country doing this, and the reason why we are here today is from The mayor's, lots of experience of talking to municipal leaders across the country about why this is so important. I know she's here somewhere. I don't know if she wants to chime in as well, but I know this has been a big emphasis of hers and of this staff to make sure that we are ensuring that our local businesses are having the right people steered to them, and to do that is through some of the signage.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Liam. I'll just add, thank you. I appreciate your comments, and I do hope the committee moves this forward to the council. And not only does it support our businesses and all of our residents, it does reduce traffic too. If people have a more direct route, that is something that is really helpful as well. But economic development is very tied to signage and the outward-facing community identity, and so I'm excited to see this at the place it is now, hopefully ready for approval in September. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments on that particular item? Not on the agenda item, but on that particular funding item. All right, Mr. Ledwith, if you want to keep going through that list.
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have three other things I'd like to highlight at the bottom of that particular spreadsheet that we would like to bring forward in the September meeting as well. And one would be, if you do recall, during the budget process, the budget did call for the filling of an assistant director of social services, reporting into our director of leisure and social services. And at budget time, we had agreed to fund this position half year in the general fund and half year funded through ARPA. So we would recommend moving that forward, and that was the ARPA impact for that particular position would be $60,000, $60,400. The other item I would highlight at the bottom there, it's a mobile command vehicle shortfall. So back in December of 2021, the council had approved through ARPA the purchase of a mobile command vehicle. And at that time, the cost of the vehicle was estimated to be about $375,000. And it turns out that the true cost of the vehicle ended up being $415,000. So we would, for discussion purposes and for your consideration, we would like to fund that shortfall of $40,000 through ARPA funds, since the original purchase of the mobile command vehicle was done utilizing ARPA funds. And then the other project I would mention, we're not ready to do anything or move forward with it quite yet, but just remind the council about the vehicular crash study that was proposed by our community development department. We will still at some point like to do that study this year. We're not ready to move forward on it quite yet, but that was something that we also had removed from the budget and had considered utilizing ARPA funds for that study, but that will be at a future date. So what I would be recommending, what we're recommending for F&A tonight would be the assistant director of social services at $60,000 and potentially the mobile command vehicle shortfall of $40,000. Through you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwith. Anyone have any comments on those items?
Yes, excuse me. This is Mary, through you, Mr. Chairman. Let's see. I know inflation. I know that all that stuff, prices are going up, but why didn't we purchase the vehicle right away when we granted approval? That would be my question. So we would have been at the budgeted price. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Councilor Fay for the question. I will refer that over to our Director of Finance, Peter Privatera, for comment on that. Peter?
Thank you. Thank you, Rick. Pete Privatera, Finance Director. Councilor Fay, we did move to purchase it immediately after the appropriation. Again, this is one of the situations where it was an estimate by the combined police and fire department. There's a lot of equipment in this mobile command vehicle, and it was determined that some of the equipment prices had gone up and it was expensive. What I asked the police department to do was execute a contract for $375,000 and not have some of that equipment on. This way they can go ahead with the build, because it takes over a year to build one of these. And if the $40,000 one was available at that point in time, we would pass through a change order to add that additional equipment that was originally emitted. So we did move on it quickly, but unfortunately, the cost of some of the internal components had gone up in price, and the departments were unaware of it. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot.
Any other questions? Without objection, I would move to place these items on council agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And Mrs. Leavitt, can you just touch on the pardon me here, lost my, yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry, I lost the tab here. I got it now. And then just on the item on the center reconstruction, that's not fully ready yet, is that correct?
Correct, it is. The reconstruction piece of it is not. We have hired an architect and an engineering firm to assist us with the consulting piece of this.
Yeah.
And we will be providing community planning and economic development on Wednesday morning with an update in terms of where we are with that. And that project will be really picking up some steam as we move into September, as we start to do not some, but significant community outreach, gathering input from folks in the neighborhood, as well as throughout town, beginning our traffic study as well. And then at the end of that study, the team would be ready to provide recommendations that we would bring back to the town council in terms of what our revisioning of the center may look like. So a lot to come, and we'll kick off a more formal discussion with the CPED committee on Wednesday morning. But a lot of opportunity from input from the council as well as the community as we move into the fall. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Excited to hear how that moves forward. And so let's just, for today's sake, assume these are all at some point get approved. What would be the remaining balance if this 4.6 million is spent? What would be the remaining balance?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the remaining balance, should all of those projects be approved, would be $6.5 million for a town allocation. And then we still have our remaining county allocation of $12.2 million.
And so with that being just shy of about $20 million, what is left for us to consider? Where is the town staff thinking? How much is this shared between us and the Board of Ed, or is that separate?
The Board of Ed has a separate allocation, so this would be a complete town allocation. So what we would recommend is I think the next FNA meeting might be a good place to do this is to allow staff a little bit more time to dive down a little bit deeper in terms of both of those balances. I know we've been discussing the possibility of an affordable housing component to use some of those funds for, but if you could, we could set this for an agenda item for our next meeting and give us time to further drill down on that $6.5 million and come back with some considerations for the committee. Given your prior directive of having these enhancing the town, providing more enhancement to the town, economic development recovery, hitting key items like that for the council's consideration. And then I know the $12.2 million allocation, county allocation, we have discussed the possibility in the past of utilizing those funds for stormwater management, but we can talk more about that in more detail as well. And it doesn't necessarily mean we're tied to that, but that was an initial idea of how to use those county allocations in the past. For you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, and then we're also considering the cost for the said Homewood Community Center as well.
We could, yes.
And then, and okay, well, that's good. I just think, it's just, this is great to hear that we are spending the money, we're being very, very thorough in how we initiate and spend this money. It's great to see that we have such a good plan in place. Really excited to hear some ideas. At some point, love to see if we have any other, I don't obviously want to like do a free-for-all for ideas, but I'd love to, I know that you guys are going to be engaging with the community. Love to hear and kind of play out some of those ideas here, what folks have in mind, because while there are a lot of very smart people on this call, there are a lot much more capable and intelligent people in our town. We're really lucky to have them, and we'd love to have some input on some things that we could do. And I also just want to keep in mind that this money is to be allocated for to recover from what was lost, and to help better the town and ensure that we're helping people that fell behind, and also ensuring, as Mr. Davidoff says, making sure that we bounce very heavily out of this going forward. So I just want to make sure that we keep those kind of key goals in mind when we're looking at the allocation of this money, and not just allocating the money on projects that may or may not have something to do with that. But I just want to keep that in mind.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We will do that.
Do any other members or other council members who are here have anything they want to add? All right. Oh. All right. With that, we'll move to, I don't believe we have any communications. We'll move to item number 4, staff reports from Ms. LeBeau.
Hi, thanks. This is Essie LeBeau, Town Clerk, and I did submit a report that you can read, but the highlights, we already spoke about the 2 resolutions for the agenda regarding the Historic Document Preservation Fund grant and the request for funds for equipment, but we have a new staff member that will be joining our team August 29th, and Tiana from Berlin, Connecticut. Has worked in our office before for many years when she was in college, and she has experience as an assistant in the town of Berlin, Connecticut. So she will come to us with a lot of really great experience, and we're really excited about that. Also included are the stats for the 4th quarter, and I just want to make note that we ended up the fiscal year with close to $700,000 over our budget plan. About a little over 600,000 were in conveyances, and the rest were all in land transactions, individual land transactions, copies that we issued to residents and businesses, birth records, and marriage records. So that's my report, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I do not. I just want to say thank you to the town clerk and to the registrars who are probably not listening, but for running a very nice election here in town. I know town clerk is very heavily involved in that as well. And just want to say thank you again for, as always, running a phenomenal professional team.
Thank you. The primary was very quiet. We did about 20%, but it was a very quiet. We expected a lot more volume with that election, but we'll just save that for November.
Well, thank you for that. And with that, we'll move on to the human resources update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will turn things over to Kathy Lombardi, our Acting Director of Human Resources, to provide a brief summary of her report. Kathy?
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Kathy Lombardi here, Acting Director of HR. I submitted my report, but just hit on some of the highlights. As you can see, we've been very, very busy recruiting. We actually have added staff members to the Human Resources Department, spending some time bringing them up to speed, but we have been working across all of the departments, actively recruiting for positions as far as assistant directors all the way down to maintainers and even some part-time seasonal help. So very busy with that. I would say we've been spending most of our time on that effort, and we are getting some good applicants. And as Essie said, she'll be having somebody new joining her department, and you can look at the list of those positions that are closed and those that are almost closed, just awaiting some background information. We've also been working closely with our staff with a focus on providing some supervisory training, and we have particularly focused on our Public Works Department and have had a couple of really great sessions with the supervisors down there. We are also going to be hosting a regional supervisor boot camp through the HR consortium within the state, and we'll be holding 3 sessions here at West Hartford. We have 20 of our staff that will be attending that program. So we're excited about that. We're working, risk management is currently working with the fire department and police department on the active shooter training, and we have put together some very comprehensive booklets for each department, and we're working through that with the leadership team. As far as the benefits are concerned, we did our online open enrollment through Munis. And the pension committee is moving forward with their new software, which will improve our process of employment requests for pensions. We ratified, signed all of our union contracts this month, and they're all up online. And we are going to begin negotiations with the unions very shortly. So as you can see, we've been busy in all arenas of human resources. Any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
No, thank you, Kathy. I'm glad that we finally were able to hire someone for the Director of Equity and Advancement, and it is an absolute pleasure that we were able to hire Dr. Rosina Haskins, who has done so much for our schools, and just so glad that just really looking forward to what she brings to the town side of things, which is a familiar face here in town, as we know a lot of people making the transition from the Board of Ed side to the town side. as you may know, and we are really excited about this. And thank you all for pumping through these really hot last couple of weeks. It looks like you have been busy. Good thing they have some good air conditioning inside town hall. Appreciate the work that you all are doing, and excited to see what comes up. I don't know if there are other members of the committee that have anything else to add.
Yes.
Mr. Davo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this would be the appropriate time, since we're in the Human Resources report, to note that today it was announced that Kristen Gorski was named by the Hartford Business Journal as one of the people 40 under 40. So if you can Google that, you will see all the details about that. But that's a really great kudos to her and to our town for her significant work experience and achievement. And I would also be remiss if I didn't also notice that our chairman, Mr. Sweeney, was also recognized as one of those people 40 under 40. So kudos all around, but it's really important. And one of the things that I've always felt was very important during my tenure is to recognize people for jobs well done. So I think this gives us another reason to make that recognition, and hopefully we'll be able to spread that news throughout our organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davidoff. Appreciate that, and it was an absolute awesome surprise to go in with Kristen. I sent her a message earlier today. Teamwork makes the dream work. We both couldn't be there without each other. I think what this town has celebrated on is both the work between the staff that is here today, and particularly the work that she's doing right now to help us. And as we're talking about recovery, helping us bounce back, and as we all are seeing in the next coming weeks, the excellent job that has been done to bring in development into this town, which is, while there is a boom in Connecticut, West Hartford really is got people, as Rick can attest to, banging on the door to come in, and a lot of that work is due to the continued effort from Ms. Gorski, whether it's at the Elmwood Business Association or at the Bishop's Corner Business Association. She's present everywhere, and present with the chamber at ribbon cuttings, just very present in the community, accessible, and that's, I think, what we want in that role. And the award that she got today is just, to Mr. Davidoff's point, is such a huge statement, more so for her because of what it means for the town. And the Harvard Business Journal is read by a lot of people, and businesses are going to see that she's an accessible, likable person. And I think that it is important for us to what is it? I believe the expression is give people their flowers while they are still here. So I'd like to do that for Kristen. Thank you, Mr. Davidoff, for those comments. Mr. Level.
Thank you, Rick Ledwith, Town Manager. Thank you, Chairman Sweeney and Councilor Davidoff, for those comments. Kristen, we're very, very proud of the work and her efforts, and for everything that you've just both have outlined in terms of what she means to economic development here in town. We are as busy as we've ever been from an economic development standpoint, with development happening in literally every corner of town. And it's a result of Kristen's outreach and her efforts. There's nothing happening anywhere that she's not aware of. And she is in touch with both local and regional and nationwide folks, always putting West Hartford's best foot forward and being the face of our economic development. So we're exceptionally proud of her efforts, and we'll definitely take this opportunity to celebrate this award. She's on a well-deserved vacation this week up in Canada. but I'll pass along your comments to her when she gets back. So thank you all.
We're also happy to have hired a new person to be in her department that's going to be starting on the 29th. So that will be a good resource for us also, and she'll have some excellent assistance there.
Thank you for that, Kathy.
Thank you.
All right. Madam Mayor, sounds like you want to chime in.
Yeah, no, I did. I went off mute, but I wasn't sure if I. So this is Mayor Cantor. I just also want to congratulate my colleague Liam Sweeney, for being recognized, and I'm really very, very proud of you, and incredibly proud of Kristen for her work, and so appreciative. And please do share. I did text her; she did respond. So I don't know if anybody else wants to do that too, but I'm sure she'd be glad to hear from you. But again, congratulations to two great young people. 40 under 40.
By the skin of my teeth. But thank you, Madam Mayor. With that, does anyone have anything they would like to discuss at the next meeting? Being that I think we have some items that we wanted to discuss. I think that we talked about this just previously. And we just want to keep planning ahead and looking forward to the next meeting. We will be seeing a lot of each other this week as there's both a council meeting and further committee meetings this week. So looking forward to seeing your smiling faces in person in less than 24 hours. And with that, without objection, I move that we adjourn.